Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Fox with West 2 News and West.com, and this is another in our series of debates to bring you the candidates between now and the August 23rd primary, a very important midterm election year in Central Florida and the rest of the nation. We're joined now by the candidates in the Republican primary for Congress District 7. So listen carefully because this has been redrawn due to redistricting. It now includes a portion of Orange County, all of Seminole County, and southern Volusia County in this district. The candidates in this primary are Erica Benfield, Brady Duke, Ted Edwards, Corey Mills, Rusty Roberts, Anthony Sabatini, Al Santos, and Scott Sturgill. Thank you all for being here. I'm especially impressed by the very large field of candidates. And so I want to impress on all of you that during this debate, it's going to be critical for Republican voters to know more about how you may be different than your opponents in this race. So if you'll keep that in mind as you're answering the various questions, that would be a big help. The winner, August 23rd, will go up against the winner of the Democratic primary in this district and a write-in candidate in the November general election. First, I'll give each of you a minute to tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you're running. And we're going to begin with Ms. Benfield. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Erica Benfield, a Hispanic America First Republican candidate for U.S. Congress, as you mentioned. I have qualified as the only longtime resident in both Seminole and Volusia County with experience in conservative policymaking as former vice mayor. I filed to tell DC that we are ready for a citizen-controlled Congress that represents our values to provide the same opportunities I had for success for my children and grandchildren. This fight is personal because the policies of this administration and Democrat-run cities have ruined America and livelihoods like mine, slowing down American-made goods to a trickle due to lack of workers, inflation, and shipping prices. My last two children are at home in virtual school because the American public education system has taken rights away from parents, exposing them to ideologies that are not within my Christian faith. With your support, this administration will be challenged by the very folks it has affected. Join me, Erica for America. Visit Erica Benfield for Congress to learn more.
All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. Duke, 1 minute, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. You know, gas and groceries are through the roof. Julie and I, we're paying $100 a week just to drive our kids to school. The Biden administration is destroying our economy and the American family. And simply put, if the American family is struggling, our country is not healthy. My name is Brady Duke. I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm a husband, a father of 5 children. I grew up here in Central Florida. I've had a conviction to serve at the highest level I could for my country, and that conviction has only deepened through service. I left home in 2006 for the Navy. I had the honor of serving in the SEAL teams for 10 years and fought overseas in that time. And in that time, I started a family. As a civilian, I have trained local law enforcement and SWAT teams, and also began serving in ministry. And at that time, a transforming journey of faith began in my life. I am not a politician, so as a SEAL, I know how to fight for the country that I love, and I've been trained to never quit. I'm not a politician. So I'm not a politician. This is a mission of conviction for me, and I'm not going to sit by and watch the left take our country down the road to socialism.
All right, thank you. That is 1 minute. Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. We will get a lot of opportunities for all of you to speak, but that was 1 minute. Mr. Edwards, go ahead. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. My name is Ted Edwards. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a native Floridian, and I'm running because I think Washington is broken. My primary 3 issues will be inflation. Gas and groceries are way too expensive. Securing our southern border. We got to stop letting millions of people illegally into this country, and responsible gun ownership. We need to do something to address mass school shootings. As I said, native Floridian. I grew up on a ranch where I learned hard work, being independent, and to get things done. I went to Stetson University here in Volusia, graduated magna cum laude, went to Duke Law School, where I was moot court and law review. I've had a successful career here in Central Florida. I've been here more than 40 years. I was local county commissioner for years. I have a proven record as a fiscal conservative, Greg, as you well know. But I'm running for this office because people in DC need to represent our citizens, get business done for our citizens, not do what is best for private interest group or other third parties.
All right. 1 minute, please, Mr. Mills. Go ahead.
My name is Corey Mills. I'm born and raised Central Floridian. I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran with over 7 years in Iraq, 3 years in Afghanistan, got time in Kosovo. I served with the 82nd as well as for JSOC and was a Bronze Star recipient. I'm a father of two, so I understand the issues that the people are facing when it comes to the school system indoctrinations. I'm a business owner. I employ over 150 Floridians who support over 200 law enforcement, Department of Corrections, and FDLE departments. I understand what it is to back the blue and defend the blue, not defund the blue. I'm the only Trump appointee in this race as SecDef advisor. I have over 36 articles, and I'm a geopolitical analyst, so understand the threats that we face from adversarial nations like China, Russia, and Iran. And I'm the only candidate who has gone to the border to understand what is happening and getting eyes on. I'm the most endorsed candidate in this race, and I'm ready to serve the people of Florida. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right. Thank you very much. 1 minute, Mr. Roberts, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Greg. My name is Rusty Roberts. I'm a lifelong Republican and resident of Seminole County since 1994. I'm a veteran of more than 30 years in public service in both local, state, and federal level, and another decade in the private sector, most recently as vice president for Brightline Trains. Much of my public service was dedicated to serving the citizens of Seminole and Volusia counties as chief of staff to our former Congressman, John Mica. I'm a Governor DeSantis appointee to the Florida Transportation Commission and honored to be recognized by him for my transportation policy experience. And this week, I was pleased to announce the endorsement of the Police Benevolent Association as a voice for common sense, practical, and professional leadership. I'm the only candidate with the experience to quickly and effectively engage my colleagues in Congress to tackle the tough problems that we're getting our fiscal house in order, reducing spending, lowering inflation, and restoring energy independence. Leadership and experience is what I bring to the table in this race. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Sabatini, 1 minute, please.
I'm Anthony Sabatini, and I'm an America First Republican. For the last 4 years in Florida's legislature, I've been the closest ally of Governor DeSantis to pass the conservative reforms that have made our state famous. And now I want to take what we did here in Florida and bring it to Washington, D.C. We need to finish Trump's wall. We need to impeach Biden and Kamala Harris. We need to hold the rhinos in the Republican Party accountable. We need term limits for every politician in the country. We need to stop the inflation, which means shutting down lawless government agencies and cutting the taxes of middle-class taxpayers. It's time to drop the hammer on woke corporations that are pushing critical race theory and transgender nonsense. That's making America first. American sovereignty first, no more foreign wars, and stop the corporate influence on the Republican Party. We need patriots. That's why I'm endorsed by Gun Owners of America, National Association for Gun Rights, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, General Michael Flynn, and many other patriots.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sabatini. Mr. Santos, 1 minute.
Hey, this our country is our war, a war of ideas, and it's time to push back on socialism, push back on CRT, radical left, and the Biden administration run policies. And that's why I'm here. I'm going to fight back. I know how to fight. I have served 30 years in the Army, a combat vet, served with the 82nd, served with the Special Operation Joint Task Force of Afghanistan for more than 6 years. I'm an expert on border security, security cooperation, security assistant. Let me tell you this. I ran a program to secure our borders. I was the commander and the program manager who established Operation Enduring Freedom for the Caribbean and Central America. I have been in every single legal route, ground, air, and sea. So I've been in the border years ago, and it was a very effective program protecting our citizens and protecting our national interest. So that's why I'm running, and I'm going to push back on radical left.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Sturgill, as you had the unfortunate part of being at the bottom of the alphabetical order here, but you will get to go first when we get to the end. Go ahead. 1 minute, please.
That's all right. I got used to it when I was in school, so that's not a problem. My name is Scott Sturgill. I'm a fourth generation Seminole County resident, a small business owner, but my best title is father to two daughters, Sophia and Alyssa, who are the angels of my eye. One thing that Washington needs, it needs more adults on both sides of the aisle. We have too many children trying to make decisions who don't have the real world experience. They've never built a business. They've never made tough choices that as business owners we make every day for the longevity of our companies. But we have major issues within the United States. Inflation is probably the biggest issue. We need to control gas prices. We need to start the pipelines up, start drilling in the Gulf. We also need to focus on education. We need to make sure more parents are back involved with their kids in the education system. I'm the only one in this race who actually has kids in the public school system. So I understand firsthand, I get to hear it firsthand from my kids and from their teachers. We need to support law enforcement, make sure that they have every tool they need, that they can actually enforce the laws that are on the books, and make sure that we protect our Second Amendment. And then last but not least, we need to make sure that we're working on trade skills and trade schools for our students and give them a future. I'm a Ron DeSantis appointee, so I'm proud to be here and proud to serve on the Seminole State College Board. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. A reminder, try to keep your responses to these questions to a minute or less. If you happen to mention another candidate or candidates during your answer, we will give those candidates 45 seconds to respond. I want to get a sense for you, again, to help Republican voters in District 7 to kind of separate you from your other candidates. I want to know about your leadership style. Tell me how you're a leader. Tell me how you're different than your opponents. And we'll begin with Mr. Mills.
Well, I believe that we certainly have a crisis in leadership in America today. I have been a combat leader, and I believe in the ideas of lead by example. I also believe in the same leadership that I use to build my business, which is never ask anyone to do anything you're not willing to do yourself. I believe in this lead from the front process. I believe in building strong coalitions and strong abilities to try and build our mentorship programs for others. I lead a company of over 150 Floridians today who supports over 200 law enforcement departments. We know what it is to lead in business. We know what it is to lead in times of crisis. And we know what it is to be a true leader and understand that as a lead by example is what America needs.
All right, Mr. Santos, how are you different? How are you a leader?
Follow me. Leadership. That's why this country lack Biden administration, lack of vision, leadership. That's why we are living what we're living. Inflation, energy crisis, education crisis, and all those gas prices, high gas prices, grocery going to the roof. And that's part of the leadership where you don't are tied and you don't feel what the people feel, and you don't understand their need or your people. That's lack of leadership. From my more than 30-year experience dealing with high senior member of government, Minister of Defense, Minister of the Interiors from Western Hemisphere, Central Asia states, I know how to sit down and make alliances, partnership, and exercise my leadership. And I have gained trust, and I have made people follow me through the programs and that support our national interest. It's time to recover the leadership. It's time to apply leadership in every step of our way and return to the prosperity that this nation needs.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Ms. Benfield, please. How are you a leader? How are you different?
Thank you. Well, I would say leader of a household is where it all began, mother of 4. And then throughout the last decade, I've led organizations, civic groups such as Chambers of Commerce, Rotary, Toastmasters, appointed on citizen advisory boards, and then it led me to the next step as vice mayor. And the people who know my good work, they want a fighter in Washington that has fought for them as we rolled back taxes to 1993. And my style in receiving the key to the city at the end of my term by fulfilling the trust that the voters had in me was not by being a flamethrower. It was by asking good questions and calling out corruption when it was needed, because you work as a body. So politicians make a lot of promises, but what happens at the end of the term is what matters most. So leadership experience matters, and working as a group. Congress is 435 representatives, and I know that I will be a great voice for District 7, as I have over the last decade in serving local civic groups. As a mother, as a church parish committee member, I have that experience, and I thank you for that question.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sabatini, on leadership and how you're different.
Greg, for the last 4 years, I've showed more courage and tenacity in standing up for conservative reforms than any other Republican in Central Florida. I don't wait until it's safe to stick my neck out for an issue. I lead on every issue. When they started doing mask mandates around the state of Florida, I sued every city and county that had a mask mandate because they were unconstitutional. When vaccine passports began, I was the first Republican in the state to fight to ban vaccine passports. And Ron DeSantis followed me, and we got that done. The legislature was staunchly opposed to it. When the congressional maps that the cowards in the legislature were trying to put forth that would have created Democrat seats was going forth, I was the first and only Republican to fight against that. When I speak up and lead the grassroots into a fight, the grassroots conservatives of Central Florida and around the state follow, and the governor and other conservative decision makers follow, and we get things done. We need people with courage. There's a deficit of courage within the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell's grip on our party is just as strong as ever, and it's not going to take the empty suit politicians running for lapel pins to get it done. You need people with actual courage, and that's what I've demonstrated over the last 4 years.
Thank you very much. Mr. Edwards, same question.
Thank you, Greg. My style of leadership has always been, first, I'm fiercely independent. I take issues that are important to our constituents. I go forward with them, whether or not they're favorable to the politician or not. A good example is in this race, I'm the only candidate who has come out in favor of responsible gun ownership. The only one taking a leadership role saying we need to do something to stop these mass shootings in schools. As a leader, I do that. I take an independent stand. People know where I stand, but also as a leader, you have to get things done. So I come out with strong issues, and I work with my colleagues and find a way to
Thank
get
you.
something.
That is 1 minute, Mr. Edwards. Don't worry, we're going to be
It went fast.
We're gonna get back to gun control in just a minute. So you'll have an opportunity to revisit that. Mr. Sturgill, how are you different? How are you a leader?
So again, I've built my company Durable Safety Products from the ground up. So went from 2 people to now we're employing over 43 people around the country, and our products are sold in 48 states. But I've also taken on the challenges whenever my community has called on me. So I've served for a number of years with the Advent Health Foundation Board. I've led 2 terms with the Greater Sanford Regional Chamber of Commerce, chairing their board, turning that board around and that chamber around. But also, I get out and I talk to the folks of the district. The issues in New Smyrna are a lot different than the issues in Altamont Springs. And I'm a big believer of do the right thing always and for everyone. And if you take that mentality, you'll always succeed and you'll always, have the trust of the people.
All right, thank you very much. And I was told by my executive producer that that actually was not our bell, but somebody's phone went off during Mr. Edwards' comment. So he actually had about 25 seconds left. I'll add that to your comments when we get to gun control here in a second. But if everyone can make sure that their phones are silenced as we move on to Mr. Duke. How are you different? And tell me about your leadership.
Well, number one, I'm a father of 5 children, and it takes a lot to be able to wrangle a daughter and 4 sons. Also, with my experience in the SEAL teams, I have an immense amount of experience working amongst a team, a high-performing team, facing some of the most dire consequences. And our country right now is in a dire state, and we need somebody that's going to be steady, that's going to be consistent, and pursue virtue and moral courage. And that's a conviction of mine, is to lead with virtue and moral courage. Our founders knew that that was what is absolutely necessary to ensure a thriving state for our country. And so it's me, when I walk into a room with constituents, I understand I'm not the most important person in the room. I take time to listen to the thoughts and the concerns of the people.
All right, very good. Mr. Roberts, let's wrap this up. How are you different? Tell me about your leadership style.
Well, several words: listening, example, lead by example, respect. Throughout my working career, mostly in the public service, I have been a leader of a team of people that try to do good works for our community. I believe in leading by example. I believe in being willing to do what I ask people to do. And I think the most important thing is respect. In terms of working in Congress with 435 other members, 434, it's a big, giant city council, isn't it? And I think we all have differing opinions. You have to have respect for other opinions. You have to have respect for others in order to successfully work with others. And you become a leader by respecting others, their views, and learning how to find some middle ground to get something done. That's my leadership style.
All right, thank you very much. As we record this debate, the president has just signed into law gun reform legislation that was supported by 14 Republicans in the House, 15 in the Senate. Voting for it, it requires deeper background checks for those under 21, allots $750 million over the next 5 years to help states implement red flag laws through veterans courts and mental health programs. And it eliminates the so-called boyfriend loophole, banning purchases by present and former partners convicted of domestic violence. I'd like to know if you support this, oppose this, and why. We'll begin with Mr. Sabatini.
It's one of the most unconstitutional and disgusting pieces of legislation to ever pass Congress. Mitch McConnell needs to be removed from the Senate immediately. They have embarrassed their conservative voters and they have betrayed their conservative voters. We are fighting a two-front war in the Republican Party today, one against the psychotic Biden regime, another one against the horrible establishment Republicans that seek to sell us out. They have no interest in safeguarding the Constitution and the Second Amendment, but only taking our rights. So we need to fight like hell to hold the Republican Party accountable. It's terrible. I've led the charge for gun rights in Florida. That's why I'm endorsed by Gun Owners of America and the National Association for Gun Rights. I filed constitutional carry back when they told me if they filed that, they would declare war on me and the Republican Party. And guess what? We fought, we won. It's going to the governor's desk next year. So that's what we need, tenacity and boldness to stand up and fight for reform, not cowards like Mitch McConnell taking our rights away.
Ms. Benfield, support or oppose, and why?
Well, I'm going to tell you what this administration has done, as I said, is horrific in the eyes of a gun owner. When I was just 23 years old, as a Puerto Rican moved stateside, my father-in-law taught me to shoot a gun. We were in the hills of North Carolina, and he said, in this state here, we don't wait for the law, we defend ourselves. So today, my husband works for a national United States Concealed Carry Association, and I'm proud to have the Gun Owners Coalition for Erica. This coalition includes gun advocates, firearm instructors, including the founder of the largest Florida gun club there has ever existed, and it's now global. So in this fight, I will never give 1 inch to the gun grabbers. I feel that it's very important that we protect that constitutional, natural right to defend ourselves. So I definitely, as a gun owner, I'm affected by these policies to gun grab, to also even stop the bullets that we have for the guns that we legally own. And the NRA has given me an A rating in 2020. So I think that right there tells you that I support gun rights and that I oppose President Biden's awful policies.
All right, Mr. Mills, same question.
Well, I oppose it simply based on the fact that as an elected official, we are sworn in and we take an oath. I took that oath in uniform. I'll take that oath again out of uniform. And that is to uphold and protect our constitutional rights and liberties. This is unconstitutional and a violation of our Second and Fourth Amendment rights. I think that the idea that they're going to look at the banning of anything from capacity mags to red flag laws, which in my opinion does violate our due process, I think is a direct violation of our constitutional rights. But we also have to remember, these aren't just government afforded rights. These are God's given rights. These are inalienable rights that we have to protect our homes, protect our families, protect our businesses. And we know as responsible gun owners that this is unconstitutional, and I vehemently oppose the Biden administration.
All right, Mr. Duke, on the recently passed gun reform law.
I absolutely oppose this legislation. The red flag laws absolutely remove the opportunity for due process. They give the opportunity to the bad guys to disarm their victims. This is a disgrace to our Constitution. This is a disgrace to our God-given rights to be able to defend ourselves. I think one of the most simple solutions that we are seeing, post-Uvalde school shooting is something that could take very little legislation, is that to allow teachers, administrators, and staff to arm themselves so that they can defend those school children. I think there are very simple solutions to this, and this administration is doing nothing but fighting against freedom and fighting against the American people.
All right, Mr. Santos, on the new gun reform that was just signed by the president.
I already established in my first term that our country is on a war of ideas. And this is not different. This is a part of it. And Ronald Reagan said one time, as the government expands, liberty constrict, and that's the best example of it. I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico, studied at the University of Puerto Rico. I established my business in Puerto Rico, and I know how hard it is. I know that the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense is important. Let me tell you, not only in my island, but down here, we got to keep working. I'm going to make a coalition once in Congress, and we're going to start working on a project to repeal this. We cannot tolerate this kind of laws. I'm going to zero tolerance to Second Amendment, constitutional carry 100%. And we need everybody. We need all hands on deck to repeal and push back on these radical left new policies.
All right, Mr. Roberts, what do you think about this new law?
Well, I own a gun. I'm a member of a gun club. I'm very supportive of the Second Amendment. I do differ in a few ways. I don't see a problem with having changing the law to own a high-capacity rifle from 18 to 21. I think that our gun rights are not unreasonably taken away. If a parent wants to go in with the youngster to buy the gun, I think that's fine. But I think it should be a parent should be involved. I want to see how the red flag law works in the long run. One of my colleagues here mentioned it. I am very concerned about due process in this with these laws and make sure that our rights are guaranteed. That we have mechanisms to prevent abuse, for instance, by false and frivolous allegations. I think it's very important that we make sure that we get due process when the government wants to regulate how and when and where we can own a gun and where we can carry it. I think school security is very important, and we have to look at that.
All right, very good. Mr. Sturgill, your thoughts on this?
I certainly oppose the new bill and the legislation. I'm a full supporter of the Second Amendment. I concealed carry holder every day. I own lots of weapons. I've taught my young daughters to shoot from a young age. So I certainly oppose any changes to the age restrictions on rifles. Certainly, if you're old enough to go fight for our country, then you're old enough to be able to purchase a weapon, legally and own it. So again, what we don't need is any more regulations. What we do need to focus on is mental health funding. Again, in all these mass shootings, we've had several agencies who have missed the opportunity to intervene with these folks 5, 6, maybe 12 times. So again, let's talk about what the real issue, and that's mental health funding, and let's put that money and our efforts there. So maybe we can help stop these, from occurring in the future.
All right, Mr. Edwards, since I stole 25 seconds from you in the previous question, I'll give you a minute and 25 seconds here. Please tell me your thoughts on the new law signed by the president.
Well, and I support that. I'm a gun owner. I grew up on a ranch where we had guns. There's a rattlesnake head that I shot off when I was in high school, that I still have. My son's a hunter. My brother is a state award-winning skeet shooter. And so I believe in the Second Amendment. I also believe in protecting our children. And we can do both. There is no reason that we cannot support the Second Amendment and have reasonable gun ownership laws in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, Florida has already done it. In 2018, after the Parkland shooting, a Republican legislature adopted the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act that does things that we're asking for. It provides for universal background checks. It provides for red flag laws, and it bans anyone under 21 from owning any firearm, not only an assault rifle. In Florida, they can't buy a pistol, they can't buy a rifle, they can't buy a shotgun. The Parkland shooting that occurred in 2018 was an 18-year-old or 19-year-old with an assault rifle. Sandy Hook, 18-year-old assault rifle. The Buffalo shooting, 18-year-old assault rifle. Uvalde, 18-year-old assault rifle. Instead of all this talk about what can we do to protect the schools.
All right, Mr. Edwards. I think that was well in advance of a minute and 30. Thank you. All right, so we get it. You are supportive of the legislation. We're talking about guns now, and I want to ask Mr. Mills a question. We've all seen your latest ad. It's airing on Channel 2 and on other television stations. We've gotten some calls, frankly, here at the station. I've talked to some people on the street who say they've noticed that commercial, but they're a little confused by the message. Can you clear that up for us now? What exactly are you saying in your ad, especially at the end?
Well, the bottom line is that we live in a time that is unprecedented, where you're vilified for your support of our law enforcement. I had many hit pieces like that from Politico, which I always say the P stands for propaganda, and also from other members of Congress. We had members of Congress who were actually trying to utilize the Oversight Reform Committee to come after my company so that we would disclose every single law enforcement department that we've actually supported over the 2020 elections or 2020 riots. So the bottom line is that my message is very clear. I will demonstrate courage and stand against the left when they try to vilify us for our protection, defending the law enforcement and not defunding the law enforcement or dismantling it, as they've said. And if the media wants to continue to try and push me back into a corner and vilify me for that support, well, then I welcome that actual vilification, because I will stand by the blue. I'm the most endorsed candidate by sheriffs, and I just received Sheriff Brady Duke's endorsement yesterday. So they know that I stand with the blue, and that's why they were coming after me. That's what my message was there.
All right. Thank you for clearing that up. As we conduct this debate, the Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade. We're doing stories on it daily, frankly, and both how that's changing on the state level, not just in Florida, but around the country. Do you support a federal law that would prevent states from implementing their own abortion laws, and why or why not? And we're going to begin with Mr. Santos.
Pro-life, pro-adoption, why we have to kill a baby. Let me tell you this. Ronald Reagan said one time, quote, "I have noticed that everyone who is for abortion has already been born." And we have to live by that. We don't support that. We're gonna support life, and we're gonna support that the state of Florida can continue protecting the life of the unborn child. I believe that it should be protected by all costs, and when necessary, only apply abortion when necessary and when the death of the mother, rape, or incest. That's the only categories that I will support. Other than that, we should push back. We should support pro-life. Unborn babies should be given the chance to live. There was another case.
I believe that, hold on, Mr. Santos. I believe I may have missed a bell that didn't get sounded in there. Thank you very much. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. No, I think the Supreme Court has spoken. I think they were correct to send it back to the states where the issue was sat for 185 years before Roe v. Wade. So to do a new federal law, I think they should let the legislatures of the various states do what they do. I'm personally opposed to abortion. I do believe that you should have exceptions for rape and incest and danger to the life of the mother. And I believe we should support more programs for adoption. Adoption is exceedingly bureaucratic and exceedingly expensive. We should try to find a way to make adoption more accessible, maybe encourage expectant mothers to opt for that. We don't have enough programs to take care of women and babies. I think after they're born, particularly child care assistance for working moms. As Republicans, I think we should not be afraid to look at those kind of programs so that so help mothers take care of their kids, so working mothers take care of their kids, and the kids can grow up to be healthy. I think these are the productive adults. I think these are the alternatives to abortion that we should be encouraging. I do not support laws or amending the Constitution to ban it outright. I think we should leave it to the states where it is right now.
All right, Ms. Benfield, as the only woman in this particular primary race, I'm interested in your response to this. Would you support a federal law that would prohibit states from setting their own law on abortion?
Thank you for the question. I'm 100% pro-life, and because the sheriffs were mentioned in the prior question, I'm going to state that I received a text from our local sheriff who's fully endorsed me in this race. I'm supported by him because he said, you know, as a father of many daughters and granddaughters, he said, I'm behind you all the way. I became a young mother at a young life, and I believe in protecting life at conception. Our family owns a nonprofit organization that creates burial gowns for young babies. We ship hundreds and hundreds of burial gowns for newborns throughout the state. And I was the only candidate to attend the Right to Life fundraiser, annual fundraiser, because that is the strongest. The only thing that they fight for is protecting life. And the evil that has taken place for decades has finally been reversed. And I applaud that effort. And as I mentioned to you, as a mom of four, I make sure that we have a pro-life coalition. That was one of the first ones that we launched, and it is full of pro-life advocates that support me in my race for Congress.
Just to clarify, you said a local sheriff endorsed you. Which one?
Sheriff Mike Chitwood.
Mike Chitwood. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. Mr. Sabatini, would you support a federal law that would prevent states from making their laws on abortions?
Absolutely, and I'm appalled that some of the people in this panel are even thinking and debating it. Abortion is murder. 75,000 children are killed unborn in the womb every year in the state of Florida. If you ban it in Florida, woke companies are going to traffic people out of the state to kill those people's children. Why? Because woke companies know that childless workers are easier to control and they're better workers for them and they're cheaper, less maternity leave, et cetera. So we need a federal clampdown on this issue. We need a federal law making it criminally illegal for anyone to provide abortion. We do not need abortion. Bringing life into the world is a sacred and good thing, and we need to protect it at all costs. I've been a champion of life for the last 4 years in Tallahassee. I've co-sponsored the Heartbeat Bill each and every year to make sure we can protect it. And I was the first person to write a letter to DeSantis last week saying it's time to ban abortion at 6 weeks in the state of Florida. And I believe the federal government needs to do the same.
All right. Somebody has a phone that is pinging, and I really want you all to look at your phone just quickly and make sure you know who you are. Somebody's got a phone and it's been pinging, and
an
it's
email,
going
and
to
an
be
email ping.
making it very distracting for the other candidates. Please turn it off. Mr. Edwards, if that's not you, then go ahead. Same question. Would you support a federal law that would prevent states from setting their own laws on abortion?
That was not me. Well, first of all, I am pro-life. I have a sister who is adopted. I have twins that were born premature. One was 1 pound, 15 ounces. So I really understand the sanctity of life. As far as the federal ban, Governor DeSantis has not yet come out with what he intends to do in Florida. Governor Youngkin has come out looking for a compromise. And not only for this issue, but other issues. I think we need to be careful. We need to stay away from issues that do not have a snowball's chance of passing, but only create more divisiveness in this country. The way the legislature is set up, this act would never pass with the Senate filibuster. So I would leave it up to the states. I think that's what the Supreme Court has done. I wouldn't support anything unless I thought it had a reasonable chance of passing. Not support things that are just can be divisive. We need to grow the Republican Party. We need to work on issues that bring our country together, not tear it apart. If it's only going to be for show, this would be for show.
All right, very good. Mr. Mills, same question. Federal law preventing states from implementing their own abortion laws. Would you support or oppose that?
Well, see, I'm a big guy when it comes to being a constitutionalist. I believe in what James Madison was really pressing in the 10th Amendment, which gives each individual right to the states that is outside of Constitution. It's very clear. It says that the federal government shall be restricted and limited to its powers that are outside the Constitution. And I think that Roe v. Wade was a very, very good thing to overturn, to return that back to the individual states. I am a pro-life candidate. I was adopted myself. My mother and father were both drug addicts, and they dealt with substance abuse and were in and out of prison my whole life. So I was very blessed to be adopted by a family, and my grandparents who took me and taught me what it was to be about the nuclear family. But I'm also all about empowering state legislators, state reps, state senators, and our governor. Governor Ron DeSantis has proven that he has done an amazing job with the parental rights bill. And I think that each individual state has a right to govern itself. And we need limited federal government. We need to get back to understanding what the 10th Amendment's about. And so I do support each individual state's rights.
All right, very good. Mr. Sturgill, same question.
So I'm 100% pro-life. As the father of 2 daughters, I cannot imagine my life without them. I think the Supreme Court did the right decision by kicking it back to the states, making it a state issue. And that's where each state legislature is going to make, the rules that pertain to their states. You certainly are going to have the woke corporations who are going to encourage this. I read an article over the weekend that showed a number of corporations, everyone from Amazon to Facebook and a bunch of others, who will pay travel expenses for their employees who choose to seek an abortion. Again, I'm not a supporter of abortion. I never have been. Again, 100% pro-life. I do make the 3 exceptions when it comes to rape, incest, or the mother's health. But again, we have great adoption laws here in the state of Florida, great benefits for families who are willing to make the sacrifice and adopt a child. So again, there's great benefits and there's great incentives. But I certainly think the adoption process can be improved here in the state of Florida, but we'll leave that to Governor DeSantis and the legislature to handle that.
All right, Mr. Duke, please wrap this up. Would you support a federal law that would prohibit states from setting their own abortion laws?
Well, number one, I think that this is a huge victory for the pro-life movement and huge victory for Americans on both sides of the aisle, because this Supreme Court decision, I think, restores constitutionality and moves the power down to the states. I'm 100% pro-life. I have 5 children of my own. I serve in ministry, and to be in line with the Constitution, we have to ensure that the power is moved down closest to the hands of the American people, where it belongs. And so I will be praying that states move closer and closer towards removing this. But to be constitutional, we have to ensure that the federal government is not imposing itself upon the states or imposing itself on the people.
All right, thank you very much. I want to change gears here. I want to talk about what happened on January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. We've had more than 800 people charged in what's been variously described by people, depending on what they think happened there, as an insurrection, an attack, a protest, a demonstration. But we do know this, that dozens of the people that have been charged in this are from the Central Florida area, some of them connected to the Oath Keepers, to the Proud Boys. As a national security issue, I'm interested in knowing whether you think we need to clamp down on these groups more, and whether or not you support or oppose the statements made by the former president before, during, and after the attack. We're going to begin with Mr. Edwards.
Oh, gee, thank you, Greg. As far as January 6th, I think that is it's a black mark. It's a black mark on our country. It was an event where I'm not sure it's an insurrection. They didn't intend to take over the country. Certainly, things got out of hand. I think you could call that a riot. I think the Capitol Police should have had more people there to try to defend the Capitol. We need to do more to defend our property. As far as things said before and after, I'm going to leave that for others to decide. I think it's time we turn the page and focus on the future, focus on what's going to happen as far as inflation, as far as the border. And so I'm not one to focus on the past. It was a horrible day. Things get out of control when you have a frenzy and a riot. People do things they wouldn't normally do. It's a shame that happened. I'm focused on the future.
All right, Mr. Mills, your thoughts.
I'll tell you that I absolutely stand with President Trump with regards to the fact that he asked for a peaceful demonstration. He didn't ask for any of this, and a lot of this was a false flag operation. We know for a fact that there was a couple of BLM antagonists who were paid tens of thousands of dollars for the videos that they had with the murder of Ashley Babbitt. We know that many of the people who were in there were wearing Trump attire, MAGA attire, and Republican attire that were actually Democrats. I do believe that this was, one of the things that should be investigated as to where is the, investigation on the bombs that were supposedly placed in front of the RNC and the DNC, who's responsible for these things. And I'll tell you, I don't support the January 6th Unselect Committee, which is, intentionally utilizing this to utilize political targeting. They're going after conservatives. They are going after people who had nothing to do with the incidents that occurred January 6th. But do I support law and order? 100%. We are a nation of laws, and we must make sure that we are allowing peaceful assembly for protest, but we are not allowing anarchism, and we are not allowing riots and protesting, which endanger the lives of others.
Mr. Sturgill, your thoughts too, and Mr. Mills brought it up. He does not support the Select Committee. How about you?
I certainly don't support the Select Committee either, because obviously it has been politicized and it has become a partisan issue. Certainly, January 6th was a tragedy. It was a black eye on our country. And I believe that anyone who broke the law that day should be held accountable and should face the penalties if they are convicted. But I do want to applaud the Capitol Police. Obviously they were severely outnumbered, but those men and women are brave. They took on the rioters and the protesters and held their ground. And so again, my hat's off to the Capitol Police for their bravery. And every person who puts on the uniform and supports law enforcement, I'm with them 100%.
Mr. Sabatini, your thoughts on this, and again, the Select Committee, and everyone has brought up to this point that they support law and order to some degree. I guess what I'm concerned that I'm not hearing, and I'd like to hear it, is do we need to do more to crack down on groups that may pose a threat to our national security?
At this point, Greg, the Unselect Committee of political hack jobs that can consist of the committee should be ashamed of themselves. It's one of the most dangerous things Congress has ever done, is try to create an organization to haunt and to vilify their own domestic political opponents. Stephanie Murphy, who's on the committee, should be totally ashamed. They should be forced to apologize. And any Republican running for president must pardon all of the people who were involved with January 6th. Less than 1% of them were involved in violent crimes. 99% of them were basic protesters and did nothing wrong. They were treated unequally, and it's disgusting. And the FBI and the CIA were more involved in that than you could ever imagine. We need to actually investigate what our intelligence agencies knew about January 6th and how they provoked and helped organize the protests that erupted in folks actually going into the Capitol building. It hasn't been looked at, and the cowards in the Republican Party are afraid to do it. That'll be one of the first things I focus on when I get to DC.
Mr. Duke, same questions.
You know, what happened on January 6th is absolutely a mark on our country. It got completely out of hand. I stand by President Trump and what he's done for our country. He is a president who's loved our country greatly and the people of our country. I don't think that there should be any specific manhunt from the federal government over groups just by name. I think we have to always stand up to preserve the right to protest peacefully. And I think, you know, this committee is basically a leftist propaganda machine being used to cause and sow more division in our country, getting us to continue to look in the rearview mirror and not being productive for the American people while there's baby formula not on the shelves for the American people. And so I think, you know, I absolutely stand by President Trump and who he is and what he has done for this country to ensure a state of thriving.
All right, Mr. Santos, on January 6th, your thoughts.
Instead of be wasting money, going after our boys, you know, exercising the First Amendment, you know, we should focus on our number one adversary, which is China. Congress should be working toward diminish and deter China. We are spending billions of dollars in a war in Ukraine that is going nowhere, passing money using your right hand to a right hand topic cost, but then with the left, we were sending money to Russia, buying oil very expensive. Our number one, listen to me, everybody listen to me. Our number one adversary is China. We have to deter China. We cannot be distracted by what is happening in Russia. We cannot be distracted what is happening in the January 6th Commission. That is going to nowhere. That's just a waste of taxpayers' money, and we should be prepared. Right now, if China wants, can invade Taiwan, we have no resources to deter China. That's the real threat. That's the national security threat that everybody in Congress and the Biden administration are not detecting on time. Work on that. That's what we've been doing, or that what Biden administration should be doing instead of wasting money on a January 6th commission that is going to nowhere. And I'm going to protect my boys from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Santos. Ms. Benfield, your thoughts on what happened January 6th?
Well, I will tell you that exercising our First Amendment must be protected. That is what communist countries do. They silence your voice. And I attended January 5th legally, welcoming the new freshmen into Congress. And then January 6th, between the time of 12 to 12:55, when President Trump spoke, I was within a stone throw away of him. We sang Eric, happy birthday. I saw a peaceful audience of folks. And let me tell you, the amount of people that were there was shocking. And I saw less police than I do in a local parade. So I think these Democrat run cities were not prepared for what took place. Now, when I saw the documentary on Netflix months later, I was completely shocked to know that took place. I do not support that. And I gave the local press my quote, which said the truth. I saw no violence. In that period between 12 and 12:55, we sang happy birthday to Eric. We had local electeds, you know, talking about why we were there. And as a mother who has recently visited a local library, who saw a book that is in a high school showing protest march, you know, inciting violence. We saw what the BLM did back in the COVID time. You know, that was just insane to me. I did not see that. And I was personally attacked. I had folks return products or simply with the fact that I was there and I did not take part.
All right, time, Ms. Benfield. Thank you. Mr. Roberts, let's wrap this up. Your thoughts on January 6th and the Select Committee.
I think these Select Committee is highly politicized. Let's not forget that Speaker Pelosi turned down the Republican leaders' nominees or choices, excuse me, not nominees, choices to be on that committee. She said, absolutely not. From that moment on, that became a totally partisan pursuit. And I think it is a shame. I think what happened on January 6th was also a shame. It was a black mark on our country. Most of the people who were marching, who were protesting, were peaceful protesters. What happened there was, in my view, was caused by a small group of people who had a different agenda perhaps maybe to interrupt the electoral vote. I don't know, but most people who entered the Capitol building probably were able to walk right through the doors, just as a tourist can do any other day of the week. The thing was mishandled because, let's not forget, Nancy Pelosi also turned down an advance offer to send National Guard in case there were trouble. Maybe they had intelligence that there were some bad guys in the group. Maybe they were undercover law enforcement, not law enforcement, but undercover Democrats.
All right, that is more than a minute, Mr. Roberts. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to have one more question, and then we're going to go to closings here. We're coming up on the hour mark. I want to talk about the economy. You look at any recent poll, and they'll tell you Americans are most concerned about the economy right now. We're paying for gasoline somewhere close to $5 a gallon. Rents are skyrocketing. The latest study in Orange County is that a one bedroom in Orange County is like $1,800 a month, a price for that, and it's up 25% from last year. People are struggling, and I'd like to know who's got the solution in the room here. We're going to start with Mr. Duke. What would you do if you go to DC to try to help what's going on with our economy?
Well, first thing is we have to seal the southern border. The southern border is a wound to our country right now. And the SEAL teams, if someone suffers a wound, 9 times out of 10, you're stopping the bleeding. And that's what we have to do on the southern border, because that is affecting so many other parts of our economy right now. We have to reestablish energy independence. There's absolutely no reason why our country is not energy independent right now, right this minute. This move from the Biden administration is intentional. It's weakening the American family. It's making American families hungry and starve, and it's closing down American business. And we have people here that are ready to serve this country, to build the infrastructure so that we can unleash American energy to get this country back in a position of leverage over our adversaries overseas. So those are the two major things. Term limits is something huge that we have to rectify. No man is above the potential for corruption. And so term limits have to be pursued so we can get, career politicians out of Congress.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. Ms. Benfield.
Thank you for the question. So as a Trump delegate during National Small Business Week, I can tell you what policies we need to ensure that we thrive in this economy going forward. Back in 2008, the crash period, I started my business when there were no loans for businesses like mine, and we're facing the same thing again. There was a national poll that over 60% of business owners fear that their business will not exist if we do not take the majority in Congress. And I must tell you that I served on a local economic board called Team Volusia, which brought the largest economic growth to our county, to include Amazon and others. So I know the most, I feel, based on my experience, what policies I can bring to Washington to be able to enact the greatest economic growth. Just like the Bible talks about feast and famine, we will rebuild again as we vote with our purse, as we vote with what is going to propel America forward. I am a business owner, I'm a mom, and as a local public servant that is in government policy, we need that experience to hit the ground running in DC.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roberts, same question. What's your solution on our economy right now?
Get our fiscal house in order. We need a balanced budget. The last time Congress passed balanced budgets was after the Republicans took control of Congress in 1994. We passed a balanced budget 3 years in a row. Right now, our debt is at $30 trillion. As a percentage of the GDP, it's the highest since World War II. We spend about $9 trillion on just on COVID relief bills that has sent our nation into an inflationary spiral. This needs to stop. We need to reduce spending. That's my first order of business when we get to Washington, D.C. I think that that is the major, with the inflation and energy, that is the key to any success in getting our economy back in order.
All right, Mr. Sturgill, go ahead.
So oil certainly drives the price for everything in our country right now. Again, 2 years ago, we were energy independent. We were exporting 20% of our oil. But with the stroke of a pen, Biden stopped the Keystone pipeline. And not only when he stopped the pipeline, he stopped the construction, but he also stopped all the support jobs, you know, the local supply companies, the hotels, the local insurance agent who were helping all those folks, you know, to be able to support them as they built the pipeline. But he's also in court actively blocking the federal leases in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, by importing oil, we are supporting OPEC countries who support terror, who have a cartel, a monopoly. And again, oil affects everything in our lives. It affects our food cost, affects our transportation cost. It's hurting every family. And again, what I don't see is the Biden administration trying to do anything about it at this point. Again, we need people who can make tough decisions, and that's what I'm gonna do in Washington.
All right, thank you. Mr. Edwards, go ahead.
The first thing we need to do is we need to stop the left-wing politics of the Biden administration. The huge spending that he has done has just put so much money into the economy and it's driven up prices. And the Democrats still want to do more. They want to spend $3.5 trillion on the Build Back Better plan. All that is going to do is to raise inflation. Energy independence is very important, as has been discussed. We need to improve the supply chain, get rid of these woke laws that some states have. Truckers don't want to go to California to ship oil because they're treated as employees, not independent contractors. And we need to secure the southern border. How can you have more than 2 billion people moving into this country a year and not have it affect inflation? Where are they going to live? Affordable housing is expensive. We're in short supply. We're bringing in millions of people a year that are competing for affordable housing. We need to do all of these things to bring down grocery prices, bring down the gas price, and help our citizens when they go to the store to shop and to fight inflation.
Time. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Sabatini, same question. What's your solution to our economic problems right now?
We need absolute and immediate, huge middle-class tax cuts and tax relief right now, not for woke corporations. You know, the Republican Party leadership is way too close to the corporations and the lobbyists. They want to give all the relief to those guys. That's going to do nothing for the working man, the working woman here in the heartland. We need tax cuts for them. We need someone who's going to hold the Republican Party accountable so that way the tax relief is going to the right people. It's going to take courage to do that. That's why I've been endorsed by Senator Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, the guys who spoke up and fought against the overspending during COVID and over the last few years. I'm the only member of this candidacy who's pledged openly to join the Freedom Caucus. I'm endorsed by the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Andy Biggs. That's the group of Republicans that are going to say no more spending, no more regulations. Even in the state legislature, when a budget gets put forth that raises taxes and raises government and doesn't give immediate relief to the middle class, I vote against it. So I hold Republicans and Democrats accountable, and that's what I continue to do. We also need to shut down state agencies like the Federal Department of Education and open up our energy law so we can drill more and get these gas prices down fast.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sabatini. Mr. Santos, your solution to our economic problems.
First of all, to solve the problem, you have to understand what the problem is. We were told that the inflation was transitory. Now we are going through an inflation, and most likely we're going to enter in a recession. So the question is why? Why is because production, the cost of production is going to the roof. And nobody's doing anything about production indicators. You have to work on those indicators, to keep those costs under control. Otherwise, production, transportation costs, also demand, supply chain, controlled by China. You see what I'm saying? When China have the control of the supply chain of the United States, we're going to have economic problem. Fiscal policies. Biden administration, have implemented disastrous economic policies. And let me tell you this, I am the only candidate with the experience at the economic, military, security, and diplomatic level that can understand how the economy works across the globe.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Mills, let's wrap this up and we'll move on to closing. Your solution to our economic problems right now.
Well, as a fiscal conservative, a business owner, and a geopolitical analyst, I've talked at length on this. The U.S. right now has a GDP to national debt ratio of 137%. As a business owner, that means you couldn't get loans. That means that you would be insolvent. That's what we are as a country. We have to start looking at the fact that these frivolous wars that we're fighting, where we're launching $54 and $55 billion into Ukraine, would actually be better utilized by investing in domestic production. We have to get to domestic production today. And as of tomorrow, I could lower your fuel costs. Oil is based on futures. It is not based on the here and now. If we even started our pipeline and we start opening up concessions, you would see an immediate relief in our fuel prices. But we have to do more. We have to look at food security as being related to national security. We have to do something similar to what Indiana did, which blocks foreign ownership of farmland so we can protect it here. But we also have to look at some of the things that I've written on. I wrote an article recently on geo superpowers and their resurgence. We have to acknowledge that there is a Russia, China, Iran geopolitical alignment, which is an economic resource warfare against America. We have to look at the fact that they're trying to replace the petrodollar to the petro yuan, and we have to get back to an America First agenda under President Trump.
All right. Thank you very much. Our time is coming to a close now. We're going to go in reverse order. So just a reminder that if you mention one or more candidates in your closing statement, I will still give those candidates a chance to respond. Mr. Sturgill, 1 minute to close.
Well, thank you for having us today. As a fourth generation Seminole County resident, small business owner, again, and father of two daughters, again, we need to address the problems of this country head on. We need more adults in Washington who understand and can control the spending that has been occurring on both sides of the aisle. We need to secure the southern border. We need to fix the economy. We need to make sure that parents are involved in the education system and make sure that, our law enforcement have every tool that they need so they can enforce the laws on the books today. Again, I was proud to be appointed by Governor DeSantis last year to the Seminole State College Board. I'm going to make sure that we push for more trade schools and skilled labor and start working with our kids before they even get into high school so we can find them a career path going forward. So again, I would love to have the voters' support. I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by former Rep. Sandy Adams, former Lieutenant Governor Carlos Lopez Cantera, former Sheriff of Orange County Kevin Berry,
All right, that is
and a lot
1
of
minute.
local elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Santos, 1 minute, please.
Socialism work only in two places: heaven, where they don't need it, and hell, where they already have it. That President Ronald Reagan. So born and raised in Puerto Rico, representing Hispanic community, along with the senior, we have to protect the Social Security, which is under attack. We have to make sure we counter China, because otherwise we're going to be in trouble. We have to reposture our forces around the globe. Right now, we've been helping Ukraine, rearming Ukraine, and we have no way to replenish those weapons. We have to relook in how we're going to arm our own forces, how we're going to deploy those resources, and we have to lead by strength. We cannot continue in the past in this, exercising these bad policies about how to deal with foreign affairs, while China and Russia are taking advantage of the weak leadership that is stationed in the White House.
All right.
This must be stopped right now.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Sabatini, 1 minute, please.
Thanks, Greg. I'm Anthony Sabatini. For the last 4 years, as you know, I have fought hand, tooth, and nail alongside Governor DeSantis to pass the most important conservative reforms in the country. And now I plan to go to Washington, D.C. to do that same thing. That's why I'm the front runner in this race, because I'm a bold leader who will actually stand up and get things done and hold the Republican Party accountable. And that means bucking the party leadership when they sell out on conservative reforms. When the Republicans were undermining the governor by trying to mess with his budget or some of his proposals, I stood up and allied myself with Governor DeSantis. I'm the member of the legislature closest in political philosophy to Governor DeSantis and also Donald Trump. I met with Trump several times. He is somebody that looks very favorably upon this campaign and knows that I'm somebody that's going to make sure that the Republican Party truly becomes the America First Party. We are going to finish the wall. We are going to get rid of the Fauci types and the government bureaucrats to give power back to the people. And we will make sure we restore this economy and make America great again.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Roberts, 1 minute.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for this time. I think the most important thing we need to consider as being a member of Congress is making a difference. That's what it's all about, making a difference in Washington and in that nationally and in your community. It's not just about voting in Washington, but it's about making a difference in your district. It's about experience. It's about leadership. It's about listening to the voters. It's about being involved in your district. It's about character and values and integrity. I believe I meet all those criteria. And if there's one thing that I think that I can say in closing that makes me believe that we can still meet Ronald Reagan's shining city on the hill, is that if Republicans do what we do best, if we employ conservative solutions to our economy and our national security, this country will retain its greatness. Thank you very much.
All right, very good. Mr. Mills, 1 minute, please.
As a fiscal conservative and the only Trump appointee in this race, I know the issues we face. I have been to the borders, and I know that we must secure our borders. We must defund sanctuary cities. We must look at an immigration moratorium. We must make Title 42 permanent legislation so our CBP ICE officers can do what they need to do. And we need to supplement early detection and awareness down there. I know how to support our law enforcement. I've done it over 200 departments over the last few years. I'm an honorary Taylor County Sheriff member. I am endorsed by 3 sheriffs in this nation. So I know exactly how we defend the blue. I'm a father. I know how to make sure that we hold publishing houses accountable who are printing pornographic material and make it a felonious offense when they put it into our school systems. I know how to stop the inflation that is going on right now by doing a domestic production increase. And I also am endorsed by the Oil and Gas Workers Association because I have solutions tomorrow on how we can actually get our gas prices down. I'm a person of action and not a politician. I will be a statesman, and I will support state rights because I do believe that our 10th Amendment and our first principles is key. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Edwards, 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm a proven fiscal conservative. I've served in local government where I had a district of over 200,000 people. Our county had a budget of $3.5 billion with 7,000 employees. So I'm a proven leader. And I've proven that leadership in the positions I've taken in this. We're going to focus on inflation. We're going to focus on the Second Amendment. We're going to focus on responsible gun ownership. Most of you agree with that. Most of my constituents agree with responsible gun ownership. And I'm the only one to stand up for you and say, let's do something. Let's be different. Let's get it done. We need to protect our children, and parents shouldn't be afraid to send their children to school. So I need your vote. Vote for Ted Edwards.
All right, thank you. Mr. Duke, 1 minute, please.
As I said, I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 5 children. I live right here in the district. My family is committed to the people of Central Florida. I'm not a politician. This is a mission of conviction for me. I'm not going to sit and watch the left take our country down the road to socialism and ruin the future for our kids. I'm running to restore virtue and moral courage to the leadership of this country so we can ensure a future that's stable for our families, and we can ensure that we leave an inheritance for our kids. I've worked with the most specialized teams in the world and the SEAL teams, and getting to Congress would be a similar feat, to do teamwork so that we can get some things done for the American people, get some base hits so that the American people can have what they need and they're properly defended and supported by the federal government. This is a new mission for me, but I'm ready to serve again.
All right, Ms. Benfield, let's wrap this up. You have 1 minute.
I'm Erica Benfield, an America First conservative that has sold American-made goods my entire life. I became successful because of equal opportunity, not equal outcome, and I'm supported by 75 local elected officials and coalition members because they know my true conservative voting record. I'm proud to be a DC outsider, and this primary is about what you're going to load in the cannon to go against the Democrat nominee. And Central Florida has fallen lost to what they use to win races, which is race, gender, division. And by me as a nominee, we can neutralize that and finally take back District 7. I own a business in this district. I raise my children here, and I pay taxes here, which is also something that separates me from some of my opponents. I feel that it's very important that the position being called representative be indicative of the folks that are affected by the policies by this administration. And I ask you to visit my website, Erica Benfield for Congress, to learn more. And together we will flip District 7. Erica for America.
All right, that is time. Thank you very much. And we thank all of you for joining us and sharing your thoughts, sharing your concerns and some of your solutions. if you are in fact elected and sent to Congress. Of course, this is the Republican Congress 7 primary debate on West 2 News and West.com. The winner will go up against the winner of the Democratic primary and, of course, a write-in candidate in November. So most importantly, get registered, get out and vote. It matters. And we thank all of you candidates